Did you have any idea how the series should end?
For my part, I never get into a venture unless I have it plotted out in my head. I know the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I used to discuss with Patrick possible endings, how we would sort of finish it. But we never sat down and had a detailed conversation, so we never agreed or resolved things at that stage. And so I think you just had to have faith that when you got to the end, that the ideas that you talked about to conclude it, plus the experience you had in making it, that it would sort of become an ending. But as I say, I had, that was Patrick's own thing at the end. So we normally, I suppose, you sit down and you'd sort of discuss it and plot it and polish it and round it and change it, and eventually the final episode may have been, well, it would have been very different, and it may have made more obvious sense at the end. But as I say, it was oblique because Patrick is an oblique person, but I thought it was extremely interesting.
Why after only 17 episodes?
No, originally we were going to do quite a few. But there came a point where they were so complex, and we tried to make them so well, tried to make them like feature films, that the schedule suffered somewhat for various reasons, which I won't go into. So the number eventually reached 17. I mean, if we had carried on, we wouldn't have met the sort of showing dates anyway, I don't think. Because they weren't sort of, I mean, I've done a lot of TV series over the years, I mean, prior to that, and a little bit after that, but I don't do them now, won't do them now, because they're such compromise. And most TV things, you have your schedule and that's what you shoot. And if you're coming to the end of your time, you have to find a way to make shortcuts so you do come out in time. Whereas The Prisoner was such an involved, complex subject that you couldn't really take those shortcuts. I mean, you had to sort of see the story through, you know. So that's why there was 17. Probably originally the number was 39, possibly, I don't know. 26, 39. In those days it was 13, 26, 39. That was when they were half hours, and when they became hours, the sort of amount of episodes became less, because your season, you change your sort of showing
Down
season.
the jukebox line corridor. Slate 456, almost the last setup, is the master shot, covering the supervisor, the butler, and number 6 descending the lift shaft, which appears only a few shots before Slate 1 in the finished cut of the episode. A script such as this would subsequently be passed on to the film editor, who would use it for reference. Phylis Townshend recalls how these notes are made.
Well, I always make pertinent notes for moves. If sort of at the end of a bit of dialogue, an actor moves, or the camera moves even, sometimes it's easier for me to write it down right there on the script. Though it can be confusing if you're doing a long shot and then you go into close-up and then you do about 5 other different setups and you can't read any of it by then, you know. So I always use a notebook as well. I can remember more the last day of the shoot, my disaster afternoon, yeah. So that was when he was, we'd shot on him. I think we'd only done 1 or 2 shots in the morning. And then we lined up after lunch, or just before lunch rather, we did the line-up, and I think we were already lit. And then we had to go off for lunch break, because they were very, on those days, you didn't work. You worked you took the quarter, and if that was done, it was very religiously worked to. and we all rushed back to the set. So we were all ready to turn over. The actor walks on the set, action, and away Leo McGoohan goes and does his scene. And as the bells cleared, the makeup man rushed on and said, "I've got his moustache." So I sort of tried to disappear into the background, realising that I hadn't even noticed he hadn't got it on. Partly, I must admit, because I didn't realise it wasn't his own moustache, but very embarrassing, I must say.
Finally, Josie Fulford recalls McGoohan's dedication to the series.
It was excellent. I really did, considering I think the one I did, he was one of them, he directed two, and he obviously had something to do with the writing and the producing of it. I mean, he wasn't the easiest person to work with, but he was, I admired him, I really did. There's a hell of a lot to do. He took it all very seriously. It was his baby. And although it was a strange subject in those days, I mean, I still think it is a strange subject. It was very ahead of its time. He is so dedicated. I mean, I would imagine he lived the series. I wouldn't have thought he ever switched off from it. I should think he took it home and went to bed with it. And